committee commended this measure as part of its legislative authority emanating from no less than the Constitution of our Republic to initiate and recommend sanctions against any House member for any violation of the rules of the House of Representatives. The committee understands that as a public officer and legislator, Representative Arnolfo A. Teves Jr. is held to higher ethical standards, especially when the acts contained of violates the very same laws our Congress has arduously passed.
With 265 members voting in the affirmative, 0 against, and 3 abstentions, the findings and recommendations contained in Committee Report number 717 on the matter of Representative Arnolfo Arnie A. Teves are now adopted.
Magandang araw sa atin lahat mga kababayan. Sinibak na nga itong si Congressman Arnie Teves bilang miyembro ng House of Representatives. 265 ang naging pabor para tanggalin or sibakin itong si Congressman Arnie Teves bilang miyembro sa House of Representatives dahil sa kanyang pagpapakita ng kabastusan, isa dyan sa social media at pagdeklara bilang terorismo ng Anti-Terror Council at higit sa lahat ang hindi niya pagsisipot dito sa House of Representatives. Na ilang bisis na nga itong in-expel at binigyan ng pagkakataon na magpakita. Ngunit nanindigan itong si Congressman Arnie Teves dahil nanganganib umano ang kanyang buhay. Ang kanyang kaso na umano'y pagpaslang kay Gobernador Digamo na siya nga ang tinuturong mastermind. Dito nagugat ang lahat at ngayon kiniklaim niya na may banta umano sa kanyang buhay kaya hindi pwede ito umuwi sa Pilipinas. Ang kanyang abogado ay nag-apila pa na umano'y itigil ng Committee on Ethics and Privileges ang pagdinig sa House of Representatives patungkol sa plano nilang pagtanggal kay Congressman Arnie Teves bilang miyembro ng House of Representatives. Ngunit hindi nagpatinag itong chairman ng Committee on Ethics and Privileges. Ngayon ang tanong natin mga kababayan, may pag-asa pa bang mag-apila itong si Congressman Arnie Teves para maibalik ang kanyang titulo bilang Congressman Arnie Teves? Yan po ang ating pakaabangan. Pero sa ngayon, pakinggan natin ang naging rekomendasyon ng Committee on Ethics and Privileges at kung paano sila nagbigay ng kanilang boto. At ano ang rason ng ilang kongresista kung bakit pumabor sila sa pag-expelled kay Congressman Arnie Teves bilang miyembro ng House of Representatives.
Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues, and members of this honorable body of representatives of the people of the Philippines. Today is a crucial moment in the history of the House of Representatives. History will look back upon this time as a critical juncture that the House as one body and the Committee on Ethics and Privileges in particular rose above and beyond the noise and clutter of local politics and patronage to remind our kababayang Pilipino what it entails to be and remain to be a public servant, the House of the people. It is with deep honor and heavy heart, as a chairperson of the Committee on Ethics and Privileges, to report to this esteemed chamber the result of the committee's investigation relative to the motu proprio action by the Committee on Ethics and Privileges on the matter of the acts of Representative Arnolfo Arnie A. Teves Jr. of the 3rd District of Negros Oriental, the violation of the Code of Conduct for Disorderly Behavior, docketed as Committee Case Number MP 2023-11. The committee commended this measure as part of its legislative authority emanating from no less than the Constitution of our Republic to initiate and recommend sanctions against any House member for any violation of the rules of the House of Representatives. As the appointed guardian of the morals of the House of Representatives, this committee exercises authority prudently in recommending any action or remedial measures that will vindicate the dignity, integrity, and reputation of the House of Representatives. The committee understands that as a public officer and legislator, Representative Arnolfo A. Teves Jr. is held to higher ethical standards, especially when the acts contained of violates the very same laws our Congress has arduously passed. As stewards of the public trust, the members of the House of Representatives are imbued with a sacred responsibility to embody the high standards of ethical conduct. Public officials must be reminded of the mantra, public office is a public trust. It is essential for a public official to uphold this public trust to remain in public service. As chairperson of the committee, I have come to inform this venerable body of the committee's recommendation on the aforementioned case after conducting a thorough investigation with notice and hearing upon Representative Arnolfo Teves Jr. that started on the 1st of August 2023 and concluded in the 14th of August 2023. The committee took painstaking time and effort to inquire with several concerned national government agencies to provide information to the committee relative to the recent developments of the acts of Representative Arnolfo Teves Jr. Their testimonies, together with other evidence, including the due consideration of the answer of the respondent, were carefully weighed by the committee. All this were done to ensure that the committee will come up with an informed and enlightened decision. During the conduct of its investigation, the committee considered the following acts committed by Representative Arnolfo Teves Jr., which taken collectively lead to the recommendation of the committee. Number one, his ongoing persistent pursuit of his application for political asylum in the country of Timor-Leste. Number two, his continuous absence without leave in the House of Representatives in violation of our House rules. And number three, his indecent behavior portrayed in social media, which reflects discredit in the House of Representatives and diminishes the stature of the position. The main basis for this recommendation is his continuous absence without leave in the House of Representatives by his persistent pursuit of political asylum in Timor-Leste. This constitutes abandonment of public office and violation of his oath of office as House member. This main act committed by Representative Arnolfo Teves Jr. reflect discredits on the House of Representatives and constitute violations of Section 141, Paragraph A and B, Rule 20 of Rules of the House of Representatives, and disorderly behavior that warrants a recommendation for disciplinary action. In the landmark case of Osmeña versus Pindaton, the Supreme Court declared that the parliamentary immunity of a member of the House does not protect him from responsibility before the legislative body itself whenever his acts or conduct are considered by the latter disorderly or unbecoming of a member thereof. I affirm that the power to determine which acts constitute disorderly behavior rests entirely in the wisdom of its chamber of Congress. It is important to emphasize that the committee has always been consistent in its effort to ferret out the truth and exercise prudence and a high degree of restraint in recommending any sanctions against a colleague. Following the outcome of the investigation and taking into consideration the gravity of misconduct committed by our colleague, the committee was compelled to make this hard decision as there was more than sufficient basis to call for such legislative discipline in the basis of substantial evidence gathered during the investigation. After a thorough discussion of the matter, taking into consideration fairness and due regard by giving due notice to the respondent and on the basis of the substantial evidence acquired by the Committee on Ethics and Privileges, this committee, by a unanimous vote of its members, recommends to the House of Representatives the imposition of the penalty of expulsion from the House of Representatives upon Arnolfo Ari Teves Jr. With this, it is now incumbent for this honorable body to decide whether or not to adopt our recommendation, considering the steadfast commitment to uphold the rule of law and standard of morality in the House of Representatives. We stand at the crossroads of history. Let us make the informed, even if painful choice, to stand by our people and remain honorable representatives the Filipino people deserve. Thank you, dear colleagues. Mabuhay ang bansang Pilipinas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
What is the pleasure of the gentlelady from Iloilo, Congresswoman Janet Garin?
Mr. Speaker, I would like to be clarified with regards to the content in the committee report.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, Honorable Chairman, on page 12 to 14 of the committee report, one of the findings being discussed is the designation of Representative Arnulfo Teves Jr. as a terrorist by the Anti-Terrorism Council. We are aware, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, that this designation still has to go through a process of appeal and final decision. With this, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, may we inquire from the Honorable Chairman that the mere designation by the Anti-Terrorism Council of a member of this House without any other ground, will that be considered as a ground of expulsion, for expulsion?
Mr. Majority Leader, we shall recognize the Chairman of the Committee on Ethics. Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Your Honors, it was just only included in the discussion, but in our recommendation, it is very clear that we just act on our recommendation for the disorderly behavior and for violation of the Code of Conduct, and a mere designation is not the basis of our recommendation.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, Honorable Chairman, just to be clear about it, item B in the findings and discussion is a mere discussion, but the main reason for the recommendation is disorderly behavior and violation of the Code of Conduct of the House of Representatives as contained in the committee report of the Committee on Ethics. And for the record, the Chairman, Mr. Speaker, is stating that this will not mean that any member of Congress who will be listed or designated as a terrorist of the Anti-Terrorism Council would actually mean a violation of the Code of Conduct and hence will result to expulsion. And that is clear, Mr. Speaker. Do we get the confirmation from the Honorable Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I affirm on that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. So, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we adopt the findings and recommendations contained in Committee Report number 717, and for this purpose, direct the Secretary General to call the roll of members for nominal voting.
There's a motion to adopt the findings and recommendations contained in
Speaker.
Committee Report number 7.
An inquiry, Mr. Speaker, just a reiteration for our part.
What is the pleasure of the lady?
This pertains, Mr. Speaker, again on letter B, the one of the bases, right, which is written here in our committee report. Letter B on the designation by the ATC as terrorist to Representative Teves. So, may I know from the chairman of the Committee on Ethics, Mr. Chair, that is the designation of the ATC to Representative Arnulfo Teves a basis in our rules? Just to clarify din po, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I severely reiterated a while ago that the designation of the ATC for our colleague is not the basis for our recommendation.
And Mr. Speaker, distinguished honor, are you saying that for the basis of designation alone will not be the basis for any of us to be expelled? Just to reiterate.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, the designation alone would not suffice as our basis for this recommendation.
And do you also confirm, Mr. Speaker, that in our Rule 20 on page 76 of our Rules of the House, on Section 141 on Code of Conduct, there is no mention about designation of terrorist?
Yes, it is there, no? From our report that we are just only talking on the disorderly behavior and for violation of our code of conduct of our House of Representatives.
And in your report, Mr. Speaker, you are just mentioning for a fact that there is a designation, right? The designation of the ATC to Representative Arnulfo Teves, a basis in our rules. Just to clarify din po, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I severely reiterated a while ago that the designation of the ATC for our colleague is not the basis for our recommendation.
And Mr. Speaker, distinguished honor, are you saying that for the basis of designation alone will not be the basis for any of us to be expelled? Just to reiterate.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, designation alone would not suffice as our basis for this recommendation.
And do you also confirm, Mr. Speaker, that in our Rule 20 on page 76 of our Rules of the House, on Section 141 on Code of Conduct, there is no mention about designation of terrorist?
Yes, it is there, no? From our report that we are just only talking on the disorderly behavior and for violation of our code of conduct of our House of Representatives.
And in your report, Mr. Speaker, you are just mentioning for a fact that there is a designation by the ATC, but it's not the basis for expulsion alone.
Mr. Speaker, my report is just there as part of our discussion during the meeting, and we are included in our committee report.
Okay, that's all, Mr. Speaker. Majority Leader, thank you.
Is contained in committee report number 717. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. The Secretary General is hereby directed to call the roll of members for nominal voting. With 265 members voting in the affirmative, 0 against, and 3 abstentions, the findings and recommendations contained in committee report number 717 on the matter of Representative Arnulfo Arnie A. Teves are now adopted.
Mr.
We now proceed, Mr. Majority Leader, on the explanation of votes. We have a reservation on the part of Congressman Bordado.
Mr. Speaker, may we recognize the Honorable Bordado?
The Honorable Congressman Bordado is hereby recognized.
Thank you.